I think most simply put, marketing effectiveness is the ability of marketing activities to deliver both short-term sales results and long-term brand growth. It's not a single metric. Marketing effectiveness isn't, by definition, ROAS or ROI. It's not the same for every business. I think the role of marketing evolves as brands grow, and I think having alignment and clarity regarding how brands grow and how marketing contributes to that at different stages of growth is really imperative in that definition.
Hello, and welcome to The Marketing Architects, a research-first podcast dedicated to answering your toughest marketing questions. I'm Elena. I run the marketing team here at Marketing Architects, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Angela Voss, our CEO, and Rob DeMars, our Chief Product Architect. We're back with our thoughts on some recent marketing news, always trying to root our opinions in data, research, and what drives business results. Our topic for today is one I can't believe we haven't covered before, since it's really the star of many of our episodes, and that is, what exactly is marketing effectiveness? So today we're going to talk about the history of marketing effectiveness, the challenges marketers face when trying to implement marketing effectiveness best practices, the marketing effectiveness thought leaders you should know, research you should consume, and much more. So this topic came about because Work recently promoted a report from the World Federation of Advertisers, or the WFA, titled Creating a Global Culture of Marketing Effectiveness. And this report came to be because the WFA felt that while marketing effectiveness has grown into a popular advertising topic, in fact, it ranks as the top problem to address for WFA members. What's missing from the conversation is a collective view of the challenges associated with marketing effectiveness. So they decided to launch a survey to suss out these key challenges, and the results of this survey became the basis of this report. As always, I'd encourage you to go download the report and read through it yourself, and we'll include a link to the report in the episode description, but I'll provide a quick summary of the findings to get us rolling here. Overall, marketers rated their cultures of marketing effectiveness a 6.5 out of 10, so it's in okay health, but there's definitely room for improvement. And I should mention that the WFA separates marketing effectiveness into 4 quadrants, which are people, process, focus, and data, tools, and measurement. The people quadrant means things like buy-in at the senior level, clear roles, and continuous learning. Process is the decision-making, measurement, and improvement of business results. Focus is a clear vision and roadmap to communicate value, and data, tools, and measurement is an ecosystem fed by quality, accurate, and timely data that creates relevant marketing intelligence. So of these 4 quadrants, it's process, what the WFA defines as the glue to these other 3, where there's perceived to be the most room for improvement within individual organizations.
Elena, for us, people in the cheap seats up here, way up in the nosebleed section, can you better explain what that means, the process? I'm still not quite grabbing that one.
Yeah, to be honest, I had a little bit of trouble with it too. To me, it got a little bit confusing when I was looking at process versus that measurement and tools piece. But from what I can understand, they have these 5 steps that create this process. So the first step is, are you creating the best insight to feed into your planning process? Then, are you setting smart objectives? Are you activating marketing activities across chosen channels? Are you measuring the impact of the marketing activity in a timely manner? And are you proving the business value of the campaign activity? So to me, I think they describe process as the glue because it's sort of the setup into marketing effectiveness. So do you have this measurement framework, right? Do you have the tools you need? It's kind of the why.
The vessel.
Yes, it's the vessel that sets you up for everything else. So now that we've defined process a little bit more, what does this weakness in process mean for marketers who are focused on effectiveness? Well, according to the report, marketers might be too focused on the tactical delivery of an activity, and they need to go back to the why and prove the value they're driving for the business. Speaking of starting with the why, just 41% of respondents said they have a clearly defined measurement framework in place. Only 22% have a company-wide measurement framework. And this might help explain this disconnect between the why and the rest of the company. Also, no surprise here to us, but there's some misunderstanding of how to prove the long-term effects of brand. 71% of respondents agree that long-term brand effects are crucial, but just 59% say they have the metrics to measure brand.
I think they're lying. I'd like to see a battle royale of all those people getting together, explaining how they measure brand, actually. I'd pay for that.
I suppose you could have a very simple metric. There's probably a difference, right, in how people are measuring brand.
And I think there's a lot of confusion and dissension even about the definition of brand. So
Exactly.
what are we even measuring? Yeah.
That's why I'd love to see everyone get in a room and talk that 60% over.
But I do think Rob has a good point, which is this general confusion around what is brand, are we measuring brand correctly? We see that with a lot of marketers that we talk to. And I think something a lot of marketers have in common is everyone can pretty much agree in the value of brand and long-term marketing investments. But at the end of the day, we're also accountable for driving revenue. So if we can't prove the value of our marketing investments in the short term too, then we're going to have our hands tied. But to continue with the results from the survey, 55% of respondents feel they have the right tools to explain how their marketing performed, but only 34% believe they have the tools to predict how marketing will perform. 52% of respondents agree they focus too much on efficiency. Most respondents agreed their insight function too often sits outside of the decision-making rhythm of the rest of the marketing function. And finally, marketers focused on effectiveness have a need for better collaboration between their teams and with other teams within the business. So that's a lot of data. But Ange, you originally found this report and shared it with us. Is there anything that I'm missing that you want to add here?
Well, I think you covered it really well. There's a lot, right, in the report. Something that did catch my eye was the section on relationships and collaboration. So they surveyed, and those surveyed were asked, how well does marketing work with the media team, the insights team, procurement, finance, etc., and also asked, how well does marketing work with itself, meaning like within their own body? Any guess from the two of you as to what percent felt there was a strong collaboration within itself?
It's got to be 80%.
I'm going to say 20%.
20% said poor collaboration.
Oh my god.
80%,
Wow.
80% said it could improve. 0% answered strong collaboration. 0. Yeah. I can't remember how many people were surveyed, but like in my view, that's due to that lack of alignment on even what marketing effectiveness means for their organization within marketing, right? That's a lack of alignment in core beliefs. That's infighting on performance versus brand. And so how is an organization supposed to be aligned on marketing effectiveness if marketing isn't? And I think that's a dark, stark reality that we're facing these days. Of all the marketers we talk to, I would say less than 25% of them can even recognize groups like the IPA and Ehrenberg Bass. We as marketers, I think, are growing up learning by doing in our own organizations, and we need to challenge what we think we know. And I think groups like the IPA and EB are doing that.
Right. Yeah, that's a real sad statistic.
We'll just call that an area of opportunity for growth, right?
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
So, well, then this is going to be perfect for everyone listening, because what I wanted to do next is go back to basics and define marketing effectiveness itself. So maybe we can help some marketing teams get on the same page here, because like Ange said, it's misinterpreted frequently. So to stick to our study first, according to the WFA, marketing effectiveness is the process of improving business performance for marketing activities, made easier and more impactful by people, data tools and measurement, and a strong and clear focus. But Ange, how would you define marketing effectiveness?
Yeah, I mean, I like that for sure. I like the framework that the WFA is providing with kind of those 4 quadrants. But I think most simply put, marketing effectiveness is the ability of marketing activities to deliver both short-term sales results and long-term brand growth, which then helps find the optimal balance between those two objectives. It's not a single metric. Marketing effectiveness isn't by definition ROAS or ROI. It's not the same for every business. I think the role of marketing evolves as brands grow. And I think having alignment and clarity regarding how brands grow and how marketing contributes to that at different stages of growth is really imperative in that definition or in that education to understand across the business.
TV is the most powerful marketing channel. It's first in effectiveness. leads for trust, and is number one in driving emotion. But it's also expensive, difficult to scale, and hard to measure. So we flipped the traditional agency model on its head and created all-inclusive TV. You get one bill for media. We cover everything else you need to succeed. So say goodbye to hourly agency fees and say hello to making TV work harder than ever. Visit marketingarchitects.com to learn more. And speaking of just the definition of marketing effectiveness, I think that's a great explanation for the listeners. One thing I also wanted to do is talk a little bit about where it even came from and how has marketing effectiveness changed over time. So we gave Rob a little assignment for the episode. We asked him to go look into marketing effectiveness and give us a little history lesson. So
Rob doesn't do his homework. He doesn't do his homework.
I swear to God, ChatGPT is awesome. One of the things that is interesting about that question, though, is it reminded me of this classic book, good old-fashioned David Ogilvy, the Book of David, Ogilvy on Advertising. And he talked about, every copywriter should start off in direct mail. And this was back in the day, way, way back in the day, right? But I think it was a really good example of marketing effectiveness in measurement using the mechanism that they had at the time, which was mail. They could measure, hey, you write an ad, you put it out there, you'd send it to different mailing lists, and you'd get a response back, and you would know what worked. Then the era of broadcast came in and things started to get a little softer. And that was kind of the development of the focus groups and all that good stuff. But it really has come full circle when you think about those early days and then the onset of the internet and all of the shiny objects of attribution and cost per click. That's all just rooted back into that good old fashioned kind of David Ogilvy saying, hey, you should be writing things you can measure. So I guess for me, the history lesson is just kind of that full circle that has occurred. Even if you go back into the 80s when direct response television first really came into play and the use of the 800 number and the measurement that occurred there also kind of was the grandfather to what we all experience today in just direct cost per click type advertising. And now we're getting into all these things that Ange can do a much better job of talking about with, mixed media modeling and the sophistication that can occur with how we're trying to measure things.
I think it feels too like perhaps DR television and the growth of digital, perhaps the US has sort of leaned into the short-term side of marketing. And that's what we've thought of as effectiveness, right? Even us as a company, marketing architects, we knew what was effective. I think now there's this growing body of evidence and growing interest in education around both sides of the equation. And that's where I feel those overseas, the IPA, Ehrenberg Bass, have done a great job of really trying to couple these two together and help us understand our own buying behavior. Certainly, I don't wait for an advertisement to make a purchase with every single thing I buy.
Right.
And so I know that's something that Elena and I have talked a lot about, like, why has the US been a bit behind on this topic? So I think it's growing, but we still have some catch up to do.
So now that Rob's given us this foundational understanding of marketing effectiveness, I did want to talk a little bit more about just the challenges of marketing effectiveness that the research uncovered. And the WFA, they made it clear that marketers are better at delivering on marketing plans with strengths lying in activities like picking and activating marketing channels. And I think, Ange, to your point, some of those short-term things that you were just talking about, that's where those strengths lie. But we have some trouble understanding why we're doing an activity in the first place. And it is difficult to measure and understand the value of that activity across the short and the long term, which again is just what Ange was talking about. So it does sort of seem like measurement comes up again and again as a key challenge for marketers. And I know that when we talk to marketers, that's often the biggest topic when we're talking about getting into a channel like TV or marketing effectiveness in general. So, Ange, does that resonate with you? Like, do you feel like you just continue to hear this challenge of measurement?
Yeah, I do. I think the challenge really begins with data quality and its unification, especially in large multi-layered organizations. Entities grapple with diverse teams, each employing their own unique categorizations and ways they look at data. Accessing high quality unified data becomes sort of an uphill battle. And then even once that challenge is solved, you do have systems for measurement in place. There can still be challenges in fully committing across the entire organization. To truly embrace full marketing effectiveness measurement, you have to be willing to commit to it too. Many organizations still rely on familiar vanity metrics, which don't offer a true reflection of effectiveness. And so to genuinely make a difference, brands have to be willing to challenge that status quo, move beyond those wallpaper metrics, and actively seek to learn and adapt. I think the role of leadership, especially the CMO, becomes pivotal here, emphasizing strategic brand building and aligning both short-term and long-term KPIs. But there are advanced measurement technologies that exist. And yet, even though they're at the table, you have to be willing to lean in and believe as well. And I think a lot of times we're looking for the silver bullet solution. Sometimes that's one MMM application. And when you're presented with that single view, you're kind of like, okay, there's a number. Now, do I trust it? Do I not trust it? We like to lean into multiple measurement methodologies across all of our clients, which really helps kind of triangulate, but it's definitely still a topic without question.
Ange, that reminds me of that conversation we had a few weeks ago with John Wojcik, who's been a CMO at a lot of different massive brands. And he talked a lot about that idea of alignment and belief system and how important that is before you're joining a company, before you're starting a marketing campaign. Just, it sounds so simple, but as we can see from this, it's actually a huge challenge to implementing things like marketing effectiveness and proving marketing's value. It all starts with, are we aligned on what we're going to be doing? Are we aligned on what we're measuring? And it's not as easy as it might sound.
Right. And even back to Rob's point related to television, there's a difference between driving immediate response and ultimately long-term building creative messaging that resonates and is memorable. So it's not just sales focus. It's all the way up to, do we have the right consumer? Do we have the right creative message? How do we gain alignment amongst the organization on what our core objective is and therefore what we think our messaging approach should be?
Right. Well, and even unpacking that for a minute, when you look at the creative process and the kind of the ad diagnostics that we study in the pre-testing of creative, there's a spectrum that we're looking at. It's not just one thing that makes something effective. Obviously, is it memorable or is it humorous? Is it informative? All of those things play a factor into the effectiveness of the creative itself, but it's not just one thing. And we have to look at that broad spectrum of attributes to determine, what we feel is going to perform best in market.
Do you guys have favorites related to like thought leaders in the space, whether it be, groups or specific people that you really lean into?
I've got to say Byron Sharp. I know that's sort of a classic marketing effectiveness thought leader, but How Brands Grow was one of the first marketing books I read. I believe that Douglas Burdett had him on the Marketing Book Podcast, and I was going through and just listening to all those episodes. And I think his book really just set my mindset in marketing. And then also working at a TV agency, I felt like the learnings really applied to what we're doing as a company. So I sort of leaned in there. And I love how snarky he can be. However, I do live in fear of him commenting on one of my LinkedIn posts and trolling me. So if that ever happened, I might have to switch disciplines.
That would be an indicator of success, I would say, if he's commenting. But yes, he is sort of unapologetically blunt.
Yes.
I think some of us love that about him. What about you, Rob?
I don't have a perfect answer for this. I'm a techie nerd, as you guys know, and I am really fixated on not as much the measurement of marketing effectiveness, but the predicting of marketing effectiveness is interesting to me. And all of the new applications for AI that are happening in the space. So I love nerding out to like the AI chat podcast, which comes out every day. It's only like 10 minutes, but there's always, a sprinkling of different new emerging tech that's coming out there. Obviously, like the Big Technology podcast is fun. The All In guys are great. And I recently got into Pivot with Kara Swisher and Scott Galloway. I think they've got some really interesting perspectives in how AI is impacting the predicting of marketing effectiveness. So it's a little bit of all of that.
I do like Byron and agree with you. Like AI is no question going to assist, I would think, in this realm. But I think just like MMM, We have to have alignment on what we're trying to do, alignment on what measurement looks like across the business. Otherwise, it's just another viewpoint, if
For
we're
sure.
going to commit to it. So I don't think it's a silver bullet solution, which of course we all want AI to be for everything, right? I really love, and it was the first substantial piece I would say I came across and has been kind of a jumping off point for me, the long and short of it, from an outside individual, because he has an agency background. And I really like his take on a variety of effectiveness topics. Tom Roach, he's got his own blog, The Tom Roach, and often just takes topics that are of discussion. Sometimes it's reflection on, Byron Sharp position or Grace Kite's position, and applies his own thinking to it too. And I think is of a lot of value.
I love the long of and the short of it too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of those classics that's also been misinterpreted quite a bit, but still stands alone as a pretty famous piece in marketing effectiveness. As far as research, I'm also curious what our favorite pieces would be. And mine would have to be Eat Your Greens. Mm-hmm. That's a book. It's sort of a it is a collection of a lot of different marketing effectiveness principles. And I think if you want sort of a crash course on marketing effectiveness, it's a great one to pick up, just because you're going to get a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different data. And yeah, I really enjoyed that one.
I really appreciate all the stuff that's published from Work. They always have great stuff on, in particular on the topic of creative effectiveness. So big fans of their work.
Perfect. Well, hopefully that gave the listeners some ideas of people to follow, research to dive into if you're interested in marketing effectiveness. And I think if I could sort of summarize what we talked about today, marketing effectiveness is a growing topic within marketing. Clearly, marketers are wanting to prioritize it, but there is this challenge that really starts with defining what marketing effectiveness even is. That's a great place to start, getting your team and your senior stakeholders aligned on why do we care about marketing effectiveness? What do we think it can do for our brand? And then there's plenty of content, plenty of process to dive into to start to implement marketing effectiveness practices at your company. But hopefully this episode helped just clear up some basics around marketing effectiveness, which is a great place to start. That's it for this episode of The Marketing Architects. You can connect with us on LinkedIn, and if you find our show valuable, please leave us a rating and review. And if you want to know what the research says about some recent news, you can contact us at marketingarchitects.com/podcast. Now go forth and build great marketing.